I want to mention a potential pitfall that I want to avoid when we go back to work in the office. I know a lot of my viewers are probably returning to the office. A lot of them have already done so, but probably more will go back to the office even more in the coming months. And this is a problem that is easy to make when you're face to face with your boss or your coworkers. It's a little bit easier to avoid when you're working remotely. It's important to remember that your coworkers and your boss are not your friend. I mean, you certainly can and should be friendly with these people, but at the end of the day, it's important to keep your distance from these people in terms of personal space and your boundaries with your workplace. I'll give you an example. This is very easy to avoid when it was remote, by the way, because it didn't feel so personal, right? 3 years ago, I had a lot of friction at one job because I had a manager who was really picky about personal habits. He would complain that I forgot to throw some garbage out. He would complain that my shoes had trekked in some stains. You know, I love to walk long distance, and this was during the winter time. Little details like that. I don't know why he pays so much attention to that. But I have autism. Sometimes those things are very difficult for me. I made the mistake of getting nervous about those things. And you know, when you try to pay attention to things that you're not normally attuned to, it drains your energy fast. And as a result, I made even more mistakes, not intentionally. But I felt very drained every time I was in the office, to the point that I would almost fall asleep in the office from being so drained. See, I forgot that the boss wasn't a friend, right? Had I used my business sense, I should have sat down with the boss and explained that, you know, my strengths are in whatever I was teaching there. I was teaching computer science, a compiler's design course, you know, and unfortunately, I have some weakness with things like this. I apologize. Could you give me a gentle nudge if you see something? See, had I done it in a business sense, as an exchange, as opposed to, oh my God, how do I please this friend? Almost like it's like a dating partner, right? You know, my girlfriend complains about something, and I go out of my way, even if I drain myself. I've had times where I've completely consumed myself trying to please a girl, right? But I forget that this is a boss. It was a lot easier during the quarantine, right, to sit down and say, you know, this is something that's a little bit out of reach for me. I'll do my best. I've been doing that a whole lot more during the quarantine than when it was in person. When you have to see somebody and when you have to shake their hands, it's very easy to forget that you're doing a business deal. At the current university that I'm teaching at, I had another run-in before the quarantine that really upset me. I had a couple of students who needed a lot of special attention. One student had lots of family emergencies, missed quite a number of lectures. I had another student who didn't have a prereq to take the course, and I basically had to teach him the prereq while I was teaching him the course on my own extra time. So spending a lot of extra time helping these two students, and all on my own time. And I thought I was doing the university a favor, pretty much. But it was taking up so much time that I ended up cooking in the office. I had a crock pot. I was cooking in the break room of the office. And I don't know, somebody complained about it. I didn't think it was a big deal. I didn't cook anything terribly odorous or anything. Certainly not bat soup or anything that was terribly exotic. But somebody complained about it, and I take it very personally because I put all this extra time into it. You know, half the department doesn't even know that I have all this extra work that needs to be done. The truth is I shouldn't have done it that way. It was a lot easier during the quarantine when work boundaries were pushed to the max. It was a lot easier to explain that, you know, this also has to be done. Because again, it felt like I was talking to a machine. Half the time I forgot I was actually talking to another human. And that's what you need to do at the workplace. You talk to a machine, not a human. I mean, you can certainly be friendly to these people. You could certainly shake their hands, or you could certainly be polite. But at the end of the day, you have to remember it's an adversarial relationship. I had some problems during the quarantine with some of the landlords that I had to deal with. See, I moved to several different places during the quarantine. I wanted to get to know my country a little bit better. So I spent some time in Idaho, Montana, right now Arizona. So I look for most of these places through Airbnb. I had a little bit of a hiccup at the beginning of the quarantine. It was April of 2020. I wasn't ready to move to the next location because obviously the lockdown had went on much longer than anybody had anticipated. So I was thinking about extending the lease on the place that I had, which was in Redmond, Washington. And the owner at first told me it wasn't available. I did some research and discovered there was an eviction moratorium that allowed you to continue your lease at the same rate that she couldn't even raise the rent. But she didn't want to acknowledge that either. She said, it doesn't apply to me. I'm from Airbnb, which is not true. I did some more digging, and she tried to lock me out and all that. And, I made the mistake of befriending the owner way too much at the beginning, discussing too much personal matters that I really shouldn't have, talking about my work, and so she knows that I'm making good money, talking about investment strategies for the pandemic, what kind of stocks to take advantage of, because I didn't realize the pandemic was going to go on for longer than the 2 weeks that I had booked the place for. So it goes to show that even though you think you can be friends with somebody right now, that may not last, right? So I stopped to really think about who we can treat as a 100% friend, and I came to realize not that many people, right? Certainly not your boss, certainly not your coworkers, certainly not your landlord, certainly not any roommates that you might have to share certain responsibilities with, right? Not even some of your family members, right? Certainly, one day, my family and I will have to maybe have to divvy up some things, right? That could be adversarial too. Probably not a significant other, right? Those things go south all the time, right? Not to mention, you're never going to see eye to eye 100% on everything, right? About the only person that you could be 100% friends with is probably yourself, right? That's really sad when you think about it, but it's a lot better that you know it from the beginning than to try to rectify things after they go south. Thanks for watching.